Chapter 46-22. Yi Qing Luo's expression was slightly chilly as her eyes stared at Long Yunzhan without blinking. The words she spoke were directed at Grand Elder. Now the Palace of Darkness is only left with such despicable methods? Aren't you the clearest about the Palace of Darkness's despicableness? Grand Elder wasn't infuriated. Instead he gave a cold laugh proudly. When you see your so-called brother standing on the opposite side of you, how will you choose? Will you choose to kill the other party for your own sake, or to fulfill your sentimental and righteous wish, to rather get yourself injured than to hurt him? Ha ha ha. This elder is really looking forward to this good show. Grand Elder laughed sinisterly. A pair of treacherous chilly eyes stared straight at Yi Qing Luo, as though he was staring at his prey. Just as he was prepared to go up and capture her, Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers clenched into a fist. She took a deep breath to calm her own emotions as her eyes gazed deeply at Long Yunzhan. Ah, Zhan. She opened her mouth as her voice was slightly low. Since when did it start? Her question made one unable to make head or tail of it. This made Yan Xiaoyi, who was gritting her teeth in anger from Grand Elder's words, look towards Yi Qing Luo in a daze. What did she mean by since when did it start? Wasn't the current Long Yunzhan already controlled? How could he possibly answer Yi Qing Luo's question? Just as everyone was filled with suspicions. They heard that expressionless, extremely cold man slowly opened his mouth. It was that day. Why didn't you come look for us? Yi Qing Luo smiled when she heard that as she asked again. Long Yunzhan's eyes moved slightly, like the ripples on the lake. Now, I'm here to look for you. Looking for me, that means. Right from the start, your target is me. Yi Qing Luo laughed softly as her brows were curved. But if one listened carefully. However, one could hear the bitterness and helplessness in her laughter. Long Yunzhan went silent, not knowing how to reply. Yan Xiaoyi, who was by the side, couldn't hold it in any longer when she heard their conversation. What do you mean? Qing Luo, what do you mean by that? Isn't Commander being controlled? Why? Listening to their conversation. But it seemed like the leader wasn't being controlled at all. Yi Qing Luo took a look at Yan Xiaoyi as she pondered for a moment and wanted to reply. However, Long Yunzhan spoke first. I'm not being controlled. That pair of azure eyes looked at Yan Xiaoyi. It was as if he was looking at a stranger, cold and emotionless. I have been a member of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness since the beginning. This sentence exploded in the ears of Yan Xiaoyi and the rest with a boom. They stood there in a daze. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. Were they dreaming? How could their most respected and amiable class monitor, who had grown up with them, be someone from the Palace of Darkness? At that time, how could there be a Tengu Palace? Qing Luo, didn't you say that the group leader is being controlled? Why did he say that? Did the people from Dark Shadow Palace force him to say that? Yan Xiaoyi couldn't believe her own ears as she shook her head and anxiously sought confirmation from Yi Qing Luo. This news, if those people in the world group were to find out about it. Probably. Everyone would break down. Looking at Yan Xiaoyi's hopeful and flustered eyes. Yi Qing Luo's eyes dimmed slightly. She lowered her eyes as she replied calmly, yes, he is indeed being controlled, but he's conscious now. Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46-23. WH. What do you mean? Yan Xiaoyi felt that her brain was unable to wrap itself around it. His eyes are very clear and very calm. There's no struggle, no unwillingness. Yi Qing Luo's tone turned solemn. Clear meant that his consciousness was clear, and not that empty and soulless state after being controlled. Calm meant that under the condition that he was conscious, he accepted himself, standing on the opposite side of them. No struggle, no unwillingness, meant that there was nothing controlling his thoughts or willpower. Long Yunzhan was willing to stand on the opposite side of them. Group leader he. Yan Xiaoyi's heart tightened as her face turned pale. She suddenly looked towards Long Yunjian, opening her mouth. It wasn't to berate, not to question, but... Group leader, do you have something that you can't tell us? Did the secluded palace threaten you? Tell us. Tell Qing Luo. Didn't we say that no matter what happens, we will stand by each other's side unconditionally, to face all the problems together? No matter if it was Yen Xiao Yi or Qiao Jin. Or those people who were still in Nirvana realm or Earth realm, the world group. After hearing that, Long Yunjian was conscious, and was willing to be their enemy. They all believed that Long Yunjian was absolutely not doing it on purpose. Even if, he was now willingly standing on the opposite side of them. That was because he had his own difficulties. They believed in their group leader. No. Long Yunjian replied calmly, between his brows, was calm and apathetic. I just recovered my memories. Recovered. Memories? Yen Xiao Yi and Xiao Jin exchanged glances, as their expressions sunk. Yes, Long Yunjian had lost his past memories. Long Yunjian didn't have any memories before he joined the devil class in Nirvana realm. But now, he said he had regained his memories. Regained. Memories related to the secluded palace? I'm from the secluded palace. My motive in devil class is to wait for your appearance. Long Yunjian looked at Yi Qing Luo calmly. You are my target. Impossible. Yen Xiao Yi couldn't believe that the class monitor, group leader who had fought alongside her, was someone who had been scheming right from the start. How are you so sure that Qing Luo will definitely enter Heavenly Academy? How can you be sure that Qing Luo will enter the devil class? Xiao Yi, don't say any more. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath. The expression on her face didn't have much emotion. It was as if she had already guessed all of this. Ever since she saw Long Yunjian again. Yi Qing Luo had already deduced most of the matters in her mind. He doesn't need to be sure, because there's the Gloomy Palace. The mastermind of Gloomy Palace had planned everything. The Palace of Darkness had confirmed that she would enter the Heavenly Academy and join the devil class. She was not surprised at all. I'm afraid that Ajan's memory loss is also the work of the Gloomy Palace. Yi Qing Luo continued, if Ajan loses his memories, then he will be able to integrate into us and gain our trust, just like now. After that, he would find a suitable opportunity to let Long Yunjian recover his memories. It also allowed him to understand the mission that he had to complete. Yi Qing Luo laughed softly as her eyes stared deeply at Long Yunjian. So, after you've recovered your memories, you've chosen the Palace of Darkness, intending to abandon this period of time, and everything that we've experienced? Long Yunjian's emotionless eyes flashed past a slight fluctuation. Very quickly, it disappeared in a fleeting moment. It was so fast that no one could catch it. The fastest update, no pop-up window to read. Chapter 46-24. But Yi Qing Luo, who had been staring intently at Long Yunjian, caught it. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed past a flash of understanding. She curled her lips slightly, as though she was smiling, but there wasn't a hint of a smile in her eyes. On the contrary, it looked a little horrifying. No matter if you're from the secluded palace or not, or what kind of mission you're carrying, but... Yi Qing Luo looked at Long Yunjian's blue eyes as she said word by word, you can't deny that you've once fought side by side with Devil Class and the World Group. Long Yunjian, are you sure you want to abandon everything? Long Yunjian's pupils contracted slightly. There wasn't any emotion on his expressionless face. But the hands which were hanging by his side slowly clenched into fists. This elder asked him to come out, not for you to reminisce about the past. Grand Elder originally put on a complacent look when he heard Yi Qing Luo's questioning. No matter what Yi Qing Luo asked. The more Yi Qing Luo questioned, the angrier she got. To force Yi Qing Luo into a rage was not a bad choice at all. But under Yi Qing Luo's questioning, Long Yunjian didn't say a single word. This made Grand Elder's heart sunk. Was he trying to incite Long Yunjian's emotions? Heh. Naive. since he made Long Yunjian stand out to deal with Yiqing Luo. That was 100% certain that Long Yunjian would not be able to incite defection. He had no way to do so. Thinking of this, the great elder's lips twitched as he sneered, "Yiqing Luo, don't waste your efforts, don't forget. 3 days ago, he even stabbed his long sword into your body." Yiqing Luo's expression turned cold. Mentioning this point, Long Yunjian's pupils shrunk twice. There were slivers of faint light scuttling in his pupils. Yiqing Luo's expression sunk slightly as her pink lips pursed slightly. Her gaze was as cold as ice as she looked at Grand Elder. "So what?" "Nothing." Grand Elder laughed sinisterly. "I only feel that your so-called brotherhood is really stupid and hilarious." He scoffed lightly. 3 days ago, the sword he stabbed into your body almost took your life, didn't it? If it wasn't for that ingrate, the palace master, who took advantage of the Lord's closed-door cultivation to save you, do you think you could have survived until now? When faced with someone who tried to kill you and nearly killed you in the past, you actually have extravagant hopes that he will change his mind? Are you a fool? After saying that, the great elder could not help but burst into laughter. His laughter was filled with mockery. What? Yan Xiao Yi and Xiao Jin's expressions changed instantly as they looked at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. They knew that Long Yunjian had stabbed Yiqing Luo. But she had never thought that the injury would almost cost Yiqing Luo's life. "I'm fine, don't listen to his nonsense." Yiqing Luo's gaze was still fixated on the changes in Long Yunjian's expression. She acutely saw Long Yunjian after hearing the words of the great elder just now. The expression on his face changed slightly. If she hadn't been staring at it, she probably wouldn't have noticed this subtle change. Nonsense? Grand Elder seemed as though he had heard a joke as he laughed out loudly. "You know very well that this elder isn't talking nonsense. And to think that Palace Master did it for you, I'm afraid. He's going to be tortured by the Lord till he's no longer human." Yiqing Luo's heart thumped fiercely. As though there was an icy cold hand, tightly grabbing onto her heart. Squeezing it hard. Making her feel as though she couldn't breathe properly. She couldn't maintain the calm expression on her face any longer. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-25. Even though she knew that Grand Elder's words were probably to disturb her heart. But, she was still affected by Grand Elder's words. Gu Jingyu he. Was it because he saved her, or was he discovered by the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness? Then. Was he punished? When Gu Jingyu saved her. She had some guesses in her heart. Based on her understanding of the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness. Everything that Gu Jingyu had done, the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness should know it like the back of their hand. Only the difference was. The people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness didn't want Gu Jingyu to know that he actually knew everything. Perhaps, at that time, Gu Jingyu himself was very clear about it. But he still chose to save her. Ha ha ha. What a good show. Grand Elder didn't hear Yiqing Luo's rebuttal and counterattack, so he knew clearly that his words had an effect on Yiqing Luo. Towards someone who hurt you, almost taking your life, painstakingly persuading her, talking about true feelings and loyalty, but ignoring the other person, the person who really saved you. Yiqing Luo. You're not that kind. Shut up. A furious berating was heard from the side. What followed was a tyrannical profound wave. Grand Elder's black robe shook. Looking as though it was effortless, he split that profound wave apart. His complacent and savage laughter stopped abruptly at this moment. A pair of long and cold eyes were suffused with a sinister cold glint as he looked towards the direction of the voice. "Long Yunjian, you dare to make a move against me? I asked you to shut up." Long Yunjian's pair of pure blue eyes was like the ocean, setting off thousands of huge waves. Numerous waves were surging under his gaze. Evil intent overflowed. He held a long sword in his hand, giving out a clang-clang sound under his palm. "You." Grand Elder's gaze took a look at that long sword. As though he was afraid of something, he retracted his gaze furiously. Long Yunjan, I can't be bothered to say any more. But, let me give you a piece of advice, you're no longer the class monitor of Devil class, nor some group leader of the world group. Your identity is the guardian of the Palace of Darkness. If you dare to betray the Lord, you know very well what the consequences will be. After the great elder finished speaking, he threw down his black robe heavily and leaped onto the eaves of a nearby house. With his hands behind his back, he looked as though he was only here to spectate and not participate in the battle. Long Yunjan did not speak. His entire body was surrounded by a vicious aura and dark force. Bit by bit, it eroded the surrounding air. Without the great elder sowing discord at the side, the atmosphere between the two of them became extremely gloomy. Ah, Jean. The girl's voice was not as sweet as it used to be. It was cold and indifferent. Is what he said true? His voice grew softer and softer. It was as if he was afraid to hear the real answer. According to Long Yunjan's understanding of her, Long Yunjan knew what she meant. She was asking if Gu Jingyu's condition was real. Long Yunjan's thin lips moved slightly. He wanted to speak. However, his voice was a little bitter. His ice-cold heart was throbbing with pain at this moment. He would rather be in a controlled state right now, a puppet state. At least, he didn't need to face Yiqing Luo. But unfortunately, he was very clear-headed. Very, very clear-headed. So clear that he was standing on the opposite side of Yiqing Luo, listening to Yiqing Luo's questions. His heart felt as though it was pierced by needles. But he was unable to turn back. And was unable to respond to Yiqing Luo's words. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-26. To answer Yiqing Luo? To answer. That would be to confirm the good show which Grand Elder mentioned. A joke. After some time, Long Yunjan's hoarse voice rang, yes. Just one word, as though it was filled with the endless suffering of the world. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. Her eyes glowed faintly as it revealed some blood color. Ah Jean, what you said is. Does it mean that from the moment you stabbed the sword, you already knew? That sword was smeared with the profound Yin fragrance. Long Yunjan's gaze didn't change, yes. Yiqing Luo suddenly laughed. That laughter was filled with deep sorrow and disappointment. The gaze which she looked at him was no longer the shock from earlier, but calmness without joy or sorrow. Ah Jean, I know. Your choice. Her voice was cold and apathetic. That kind of cold and detached attitude. It made Long Yunjan's pupils shrink bit by bit. His heart was in extreme pain. He wanted to speak. But the words which were at the tip of his mouth were kept back into his throat. There was already nothing more to say. Qing Luo. Qing Luo. Seeing Yiqing Luo's expression, Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi called out Yiqing Luo's name in a fluster. They stared intently at Long Yunjan, unable to believe that in the end, they and their group leader would walk to such a stage. That was their group leader. If it wasn't for Long Yunjan's appearance. They were afraid that when they were in devil class, they would really continue to fall. How would they be able to have such a colorful and glorious life now? Even if they saw it with their own eyes. They were unable to believe that their group leader would part ways with them. Yiqing Luo raised her hand, making an action to stop them from speaking. Following that, her expression was calm as she looked at Long Yunjan calmly. Her pink lips rose slightly, but it wasn't a smile arc, but I'm afraid Secluded Palace has miscalculated. Long Yunjan went into a slight blank. Yiqing Luo smiled again. You've guessed what I want to do, right? Long Yunjan's expression changed again. Yiqing Luo's gaze went past Long Yunjan and landed on Grand Elder. She revealed a smile that was as bright as a flower. Who told you that if you hand over Long Yunjan, I must fight him? Want to see us kill each other? It doesn't exist. If we can't beat you, can't we run? As soon as the girl's voice fell, deafening explosions suddenly erupted in the surroundings. A profound wave that shook the air rapidly spread in all directions. After the profound wave dispersed, in front of them, where was Yiqing Luo and the rest? F***ck. The Great Elder's face was ashen, and his facial features were so twisted that he couldn't help but curse. He quickly flew down from the eaves and scanned the surroundings. Where are they? Where is he? He ran away. Long Yunzhan stood in place, motionless like a stone statue. Ran away? How could you let them get away? Did you intentionally let them escape? Grand Elder had never seen someone as shameless as Yiqing Luo. The fight hadn't even started, and he was already running away. How could such a large group of people escape in such a short period of time? Long Yunzhan lifted his eyelids lightly, his blue eyes as calm as still water. Do you think I can stop a venerable sovereign? The Great Elder's expression was even more unsightly. He scolded loudly, but there was nothing he could do. He took large strides towards Ren Jianying, and directly pulled her up. Trash. Meeting Yiqing Luo, that slut, all of you have become trash. Let's see how you explain to His Highness this time. Chapter 46-27. The instant Grand Elder turned around, he didn't notice that Long Yunzhan slowly shifted his gaze towards a certain direction. Slowly. Heaved a sigh of relief. He lowered his eyes as he congealed on the azure blue long sword in his hand. Luckily, he didn't need to make a move on her again. Luckily, he didn't really make a move. At this moment, Yiqing Luo and the rest were on the back of the magical beasts. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian were sitting on Little Nine's back. Chi was carrying the rest of them. They stopped at a rather secluded area in the forest before Yiqing Luo got Little Nine to find a place to stop. Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi were both preoccupied. They had just leapt down from Chi's back as the two of them welcomed Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo. Group leader he really. Yiqing Luo recalled Chi back as she randomly found a rock to sit on. Right, if we didn't run earlier, we should be fighting with Zhan right now. Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi's expressions congealed slightly as they pursed their lips tightly, unable to say a single word. They had interacted with Long Yunzhan the longest. Their relationship with Long Yunzhan was the deepest. Yiqing Luo didn't participate in the matters before they went to Devil class. But Yiqing Luo knew. To Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi, Long Yunzhan was their salvation. It was Long Yunzhan who led them to pull themselves together again, setting up a new goal for them, giving them a new life. Not only the both of them. Everyone in Devil class was the same. Why? Group leader is from secluded palace. Until now, Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi were still unable to believe this fact. If this matter were to spread to the world group's brothers' ears, how much pain would their brothers be in? He didn't even dare to think about it. It's my fault. Yiqing Luo leaned into Dmo Xian's arms. Secluded palace's target is me, and Zhan is a chess piece of secluded palace. It's not your fault. Yan Xiaoyi hurriedly said, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have met group leader. Yiqing Luo's eyelids drooped as her eyes dimmed. I ran because I didn't want to go against Zhan. She took a deep breath. Secluded palace really knows how to use the thing that we care the most, and even hurt us. Once? What about the second time? Huangfu Xing looked at Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi's pained expressions and straightforwardly asked the most crucial question. You have to solve the problem of facing him. As a bystander, Huangfu Xing hadn't gone through life and death with Long Yunzhan and the others, so he was the one who could tell the problem most directly. I'm afraid that is the goal of the Abyss Palace. Even if Long Yunzhan did not complete his mission, his appearance has disturbed all of your hearts. Gu Zixi walked to Yan Xiaoyi's side and hugged her gently. Although Xing's words aren't pleasant to hear, they are the truth. You can be sad, you can be upset, but you can't let yourself be defeated because of him. The few of them fell silent. The two of you, don't be so sad. I didn't even say that I'm going to stand against Jean. Can you, listen to me for a moment? Two voices sounded at the same time. Yiqing Luo paused her voice and looked towards Miao Xianxian, who had spoken out earlier. The young lady's bright eyes stared straight at her. Yiqing Luo waved her hand, asking Miao Xianxian to come over. The young lady immediately ran over to Yiqing Luo's side. When she got close to Yiqing Luo, but she was stopped in her tracks by the man behind Yiqing Luo's gaze. Chapter 46-28. Don't scare the young lady. Yiqing Luo gave Dmo Xian a stare and squeezed his palm hard, perhaps. This is Jean's savior. Heh. Dmo Xian shot a cold glance at Miao Xianxian. Savior? The fact that I didn't kill him just now means that I've been patient enough. Yiqing Luo was all smiles as she wrapped her arms around Dmo Xian's neck, as she leaned close to his face and planted a kiss. Yes, 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 I know my Xian has been extremely patient because of me. Reward him with a big one. That tone was as though she was coaxing a large-sized dog pet. She was just short of rubbing his head. Unfortunately, Dmo Xian enjoyed it. The moment the young lady took the initiative to kiss him, he then mercifully shifted his icy cold eyes away from Miao Xianxian. He lowered his head tightly and played with the young lady's slender fingers. Come here. Yiqing Luo waved at Miao Xianxian. The young lady looked at Dmo Xian in fear and hesitated. Yiqing Luo smiled. With me around, he won't dare to glare at you. Miao Xianxian hesitated for a moment before she moved her feet and walked to Yiqing Luo's side. But she didn't get too close. Instead, he stood 2 steps away from Yiqing Luo and stopped. Qing Luo, what do you mean by what you said earlier? We don't need to go against the group leader? Is there any other way to wake the leader up? Yan Xiaoyi's face was filled with anxiety. Don't keep me in suspense, I'm dying of anxiety. Yiqing Luo's lips curled slightly as she winked at Miao Xianxian. Didn't Xianxian have something to say? Let's hear what Xianxian has to say first. Yan Xiaoyi and the rest looked towards Miao Xianxian in unison. It was rare to be stared at by so many people. The young lady was shy and unnatural as she averted her gaze. Wait. Wait. Ren Jianming couldn't stand it anymore as he walked to Miao Xuanxuan's side and pulled her behind him, blocking Yan Xiaoyi and the rest's gazes. She's just a young lady who sells information and has nothing to do with this matter. Because of me, she has been implicated and offended, my eldest sister. When Ren Jianming mentioned Ren Jianying, he looked very ashamed. He pursed his thin lips. We can't drag her into this anymore. From the moment she sold the information to you, she was already involved. Yan Xiaoyi frowned. This matter has nothing to do with you, don't interrupt. What do you mean it has nothing to do with me? Ren Jianming stood in front of Miao Xianxian to protect her. The young lady is only involved because of me. That's enough. Your regiment commander's matter has nothing to do with the young lady. Can't you see that she's afraid? What do you want to force her to say? Because of Long Yunzhan, he was already anxious and frustrated. Yan Xiaoyi had been suppressing her emotions. Now, because of Ren Jianming's interference. Moreover, he used a blaming tone. Yan Xiaoyi instantly exploded. What do you mean? The guild leader has nothing to do with you, so of course you wouldn't understand our feelings. Since Xian was allowed to speak, it meant that Xian had her own views on the matter regarding the regiment leader. Xian hasn't said anything yet. What are you shouting for? Ren Jianming's expression froze. Both sides' arrogance was ignited at this moment. At the moment when swords were drawn. A light cough interrupted the two's tit for tat. Can't the both of you wait for the young lady to finish her words? Yiqing Luo's gaze lingered on the both of them. What if the young lady is frightened by your quarreling? Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46-29. The two of them looked at each other and shut their mouths. Yiqing Luo pointed at Xiao Jin, pull your wife back. After that, she looked at Ren Jianming, the young lady hasn't spoken yet, why are you so nervous? Why, have you taken a fancy to her? Ren Jianming's face flushed red in an instant. Took a fancy to Miao Xianxian? The person he liked, was obviously. Ren Jianming couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. He felt a burning sensation on his face. He turned around and looked at Miao Xianxian behind him, wanting to say yes. But when he met the young lady's bright eyes, his face turned even redder. Ah Luo, what nonsense are you talking about? I don't mean that, You don't need to explain to me, you know what you're thinking about. Yiqing Luo waved her hand with an I understand expression. Ren Jianming. He was even more confused now. Yiqing Luo looked at Miao Xianxian with a beaming smile. Her voice was clear and sweet, but it was just a normal chatting tone. Xianxian, because of Ren Jianming's matter today, I'm really sorry for dragging you into the Ren family's fight. Miao Xianxian stuck out her little head from behind Ren Jianming and shook her head vigorously. It's all right, I'm not afraid of her. Now. I'm afraid she's the one who's afraid of you. Yiqing Luo laughed softly and continued, regarding my friend's matter. If you're not willing to help, I understand, so you don't need to have any psychological burden. I'm willing. Miao Xianxian blinked her bright eyes. Why wouldn't I be willing? Do you know? Once you're involved in this matter, there's a possibility that your life will be in danger. Ren Jianming listened to the young lady's innocent words. His heart was filled with worry. He held the young lady's arm with both hands and said solemnly, the enemy we're facing is not as simple as the Ren family's patriarch, there's a more complicated force behind. I know. Miao Xianxian looked at Ren Jianming's worried face. She suddenly smiled brightly. She hugged Ren Jianming with both hands and said in a clear voice, thank you for your concern, I know what you want to say, and I know what I'm doing, don't worry. The young lady's face was covered in dust and her body was covered in dust. But, when she hugged herself, Ren Jianming felt a soft warmth in his arms. The unique fragrance of a woman seeped into his nose. His heart trembled violently. His body was stiff and he couldn't react at all. Miao Xianxian only hugged him for a while before letting go of him. She then looked at Yan Xiaoyi and the others. Actually, I came to the heaven realm because of the guild leader that you all mentioned. Let me reintroduce myself. My surname is Miao, and my name is Miao Xianxian. I'm the next holy lady of the Miao Gu family in the earth domain. Miao. Miao Gu clan. Yan Xiaoyi looked at Miao Xianxian in shock. You're the holy maiden of the Miao Gu family? You came to the heaven realm for our guild leader? In that case, their leader had been poisoned by a venomous insect? That's right. Gu poison. That's right. The gu poison in Zhan's body has yet to be neutralized. Yiqing Luo continued the conversation. At that time I asked little Qinggu and she mentioned that the venom in Zhan's body can only be undone by the person who planted the venom in the upper realm. But, what does this gu poison have to do with the fact that the captain is from the Palace of Darkness? Yan Xiaoyi tried her best to digest what she had just learned. Could it be that dark secluded palace used gu poison to threaten the leader? Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46-30. It's not entirely because of the venomous worm. Yiqing Luo shook her head. The venomous worm is only a small part of the reason. Based on my understanding of Zhan, if it's only because of the venomous worm, he would rather die than bear to touch us. Then what's the reason? Yan Xiaoyi asked anxiously. Ever since Mo Yuing told everyone about Long Yun Zhan's body being planted with the heart-devouring worm. At that time, Long Yun Zhan was indeed depressed because of the heart-devouring worm. But because everyone wished for him to stay alive. And because Mo Yuing brought back Yiqing Luo's words. Which made Long Yun Zhan persevere on. And the heart-devouring worm didn't show any signs of acting up. Everyone gradually let down their guard. And then, until now. Yan Xiaoyi's expression changed. What you mean is, the heart-devouring worm in group leader's body has already acted up. There's a strong smell of the worm on him. Miao Xian nodded, but there seems to be something suppressing his worm, so that he doesn't lose his rationality. Yan Xiaoyi's expression suddenly turned pale. Her petite body swayed. Xiao Jin supported her from the side and pulled her into his arms, then looked at Miao Xian. Then do you have any way to help him detoxify the worm? I've heard Auntie Miao mention about the heart-devouring worm, this time. I'm under orders from Auntie Miao and the family to specially come over to resolve the heart-devouring worm. Miao Xian's head drooped, but I'm not sure if I have any way. Auntie Miao said that the heart-devouring worm in his body came from the most powerful witchcraft family. Only the person who planted the worm can detoxify the heart-devouring worm. I can only try my best, but I can't guarantee if I can detoxify the worm. For a moment, the few of them turned silent. There wasn't 100% certainty. That meant there was danger. In the process of detoxifying the worm, a little bit of danger could cost one's life. Previously Auntie Miao and I were still wondering who it was. Why would they plant such a precious worm on Ajan? Now, I finally understand. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. Secluded Palace really thinks highly of me, plotting everything from the start. Now they even used such a precious worm to plot against me. The heart-devouring parasite was definitely related to the Netherworld Palace. In the beginning, the heart-devouring parasite was planted on Long Yunzhan, probably because she was worried that Long Yunzhan would really develop feelings for her. He could use it to control Long Yunzhan. But then, the Palace of Obscurity had underestimated the so-called brotherhood and revolutionary feelings of fighting side by side. Then, he made some other preparations behind the scenes. Don't think too deeply into it. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth to break the silence. Since Aunt Miao and the Miao Gu family invited you over, they definitely believe in your ability and I also believe that you can do it. But, she paused for a moment. Have you guys ever considered that with Ajan's current condition, there's no way he'll cooperate with us to dispel the goo? The others were slightly startled. Indeed. Now, Long Yunzhan didn't even have the chance to talk to them. Not to mention cooperating with them to cure the goo. How could the Palace of Darkness give them such a chance? Yan Xiaoyi muttered to herself for a moment and suddenly thought of something as she raised her head to look at Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo, previously why did you say that we won't go against group leader? And the reason why he would stand on the Palace of Obscurity's side is not only because of the heart-devouring parasite. What other reason is there? She asked. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-31. I haven't thought of that yet. Yiqing Luo shook her head. The only thing I can be sure of is the thing that threatens Ajan is as important as us. Leader, he must be feeling terrible. Yan Xiaoyi lowered her eyelids and leaned her head on Xiao Jin's shoulder. If it was really as they had guessed. The reason why Long Yunzhan stood on the opposite side of them. It was because he had his own difficulties. It was only because they were standing opposite each other that they almost started fighting. They were in so much pain and suffering. Then, their leader would probably feel even worse than them. Personally stabbing the sword into Yiqing Luo's body. Almost took Yiqing Luo's life. He forced himself to stand in front of them and face their swords. He even had to hide all of his emotions. Actually, Long Yunzhan was in more pain than them. Secluded Palace. Yan Xiaoyi gritted her teeth, pausing between each word. I really want to kill the person behind Secluded Palace. Is he really that happy to play with our feelings? That's because that man will never be able to experience the feeling of being loved. That's why he's jealous. Yiqing Luo comforted him softly. Find a chance to test Ajan. As long as we solve the problem from the root, Secluded Palace's motive will not succeed. What should we do? Yan Xiaoyi asked. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as a dangerous glint flashed past her eyes. Tonight, Ah Xian and I will head over to the Ren family to check on the situation. You all follow Ren Jiaming to hide first, in case the people from secluded palace find you. Yan Xiaoyi also wanted to follow. But it was also clear. The fewer people there were, the safer it would be. She could only suppress the worry in her heart and agree, you guys have to be careful too. The Palace of Gloomy Shadows is very cunning. Knowing that His Majesty is here, they will definitely take extra precautions to guard against trouble. I don't think so. Or rather, the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was waiting for them to visit the Ren family at night. But this guess, in order to prevent them from worrying, Yiqing Luo didn't say it out. The night was as dark as ink. The night sky was quiet and dense. It gave off a chill that made one's hair stand on end. It was as if he was announcing that there would be no peace tonight. Two silhouettes stepped lightly onto the jade tiles. Everywhere he went, there wasn't the slightest sound, and he floated silently like the wind. In a short moment, the two of them were already standing inside the Ren clan's mansion. The Ren family was silent. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. Not even a single candle was lit. There wasn't even the slightest hint of a human aura. Generally speaking, families with large forces like these would not be able to afford to offend them. Every night, 2 candles would be lit at regular intervals to illuminate the area. However, the Ren family was in complete darkness. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows. Could it be that this was how the Ren family welcomed their night visit? Under the night sky, the girl's bright and charming eyes met the man's. Dmo Xian locked onto her waist and immediately leapt up. With a few leaps, he landed on the other side of the Ren family. It was still quiet and dark all around. There was not the slightest bit of light. But at this moment, a slight sound came from behind him. It was very obvious. There were still people living in the Ren residence. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian quietly approached the source of the sound. He landed in an extremely spacious courtyard. The sound of Ren Jianning gasping in pain came from inside. Damn the Miaogu clan, it hurts. There was even a maid comforting her in a low voice. But Ren Jianning, who was in extreme pain, how could she hear other people's voices? She was annoyed and furious, and because of the goo worms in her body jumping up and down, the pain was unspeakable. Update complete moi. My computer crashed while I was in agony. It kept crashing and the blue screen kept crashing. The kind of blue screen the moment I turned it on, it's tormenting me so much that I'm about to collapse. Sob sob sob, please comfort me. End of this chapter. Chapter 4632. Yiqing Luo. You slut. I will definitely take revenge for this. Ren Jianning cursed hoarsely, her voice was already hoarse from all the shouting. It was Ren Jianning's courtyard. From the looks of it, she should be suffering from the goo worm that Miao Xianxian had planted on her. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as her lips curled. This was Ren Jianning's own trap. She couldn't blame anyone else. But, based on Ren Jianning's current status, over at the secluded palace, they should more or less care about her. Why? Ren Jianning was suffering from the goo worm and was in so much pain. The secluded palace actually had no intention to help her, leaving Ren Jianning to howl in pain. Could it be that they weren't worried that Ren Jianning's condition would easily shake the other powerhouses? That hand on her waist wrapped around her waist tightly. The man's boiling hot chest pressed tightly against her back. It made her body immersed in warmth. His entire body was filled with a man's elegant sandalwood scent. Dmo Xian bent down slightly as his thin lips slowly moved towards Yiqing Luo's ear. His low voice was like a stream of air as it drilled into her ear. Lil Luo, look at her neck. That ticklish feeling was like a feather, tickling her skin, her heart. Yiqing Luo was starting to suspect if he did it on purpose. Knowing that her ear was sensitive, he still moved so close. Yiqing Luo's little hand pushed him. Just as she moved. The man seemed to know what she wanted to do as he accurately grabbed her little hand and stuffed it into his big palm. That thin lips by the side of her ear lightly moved again. Look. You're still looking at her neck. Yiqing Luo pinched the arm which was across her waist. After giving a cold humph, she shifted her gaze towards Ren Jianying's direction. Just at this moment, her gaze had yet to land on Ren Jianying. Suddenly, her waist tightened. The man hugged her and with a leap, he silently stepped onto the jade tiles. At the same time, a figure which had completely blended into the night slowly appeared at the entrance of Ren Jianying's room. Yiqing Luo's angle was just nice to see everything below. That figure, wasn't it the Grand Elder whom she saw in the afternoon? Why did he come to Ren Jianying's room? In the afternoon, he was clearly extremely disdainful of Ren Jianying, and he didn't seem to care at all. At this moment, he was actually going to visit her at night? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curled into a devilish smile. She had a feeling that something 18+ was about to happen in the room. Yiqing Luo stuck her little head out and looked into the room. Her head was heavily knocked by the man's well-defined fingers. Yiqing Luo hugged her head and gave him a stare. From below, the servant girl's respectful voice rang out. Great Elder. You may leave. The Great Elder waved his hand, his cold voice sounding even more treacherous in the night. After the Great Elder stepped into the room, Ren Jianying, who was moaning in pain on the bed, also stopped. However, if one listened carefully, one would be able to hear her gasps and muffled groans of pain. The door was quickly closed. Only the First Elder and Ren Jianying were left in the room. Ren Jianying. The Great Elder's voice was gloomy as he slowly called out Ren Jianying's name. The person on the bed shrank slightly. But she stubbornly turned her back, unwilling to look at him. The petite figure trembled slightly on the bed. The Great Elder slowly walked to the side of the bed. Just as he was about to sit down, Ren Jianying's hoarse voice was heard. Didn't the secluded palace intend to give up on me? Why are you still here for? Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 4633. The Great Elder stared at Ren Jianying for a while before saying, Why? Are you blaming me? How dare I? Taking a deep breath, Ren Jianying suppressed the cramping pain in her body and said, I know myself very well. I know that I am just a dispensable chess piece of the Dark Nether Palace. How can I blame you? The Great Elder sat down by the bed. His black robe was scattered beside the bed. He put his hand on Ren Jianying's body. Ren Jianying's delicate body trembled even more. To the Palace of Darkness, you're dispensable. But, to me, you're very important. The Great Elder used that gloomy voice to say such romantic words. It inexplicably made people have goosebumps all over their bodies. Ren Jianying took a deep breath and slowly breathed out a scorching breath. If you really, really value me, you won't be willing to part with me. How about this? Her body trembled. She couldn't bear the pain. She slowly turned around and looked at the Great Elder. After all, she was a person who had been reborn. She knew very well how to use her advantage. Even if her body was being corroded by the poison and was in great pain, Ren Jianying could still maintain her most beautiful posture. Her face was pale from the pain. But she stubbornly didn't make a sound. She looked at the Great Elder with a pitiful gaze. Immediately, the coldness and ruthlessness on the Great Elder's body dissipated a little. The Great Elder stretched out his skinny fingers. His fingertips were full of calluses as he caressed the delicate skin of the woman. He grabbed Ren Jianying's wrist and tapped on her body. Ren Jianying's entire body went limp. She was sweating profusely as she panted heavily. In that instant, the pain in his body finally ceased. That coquettish look made the Great Elder's eyes burn with evil fire. He grabbed the woman's wrist and suddenly pulled her into his arms. Ren Jianying's delicate body stiffened, but soon softened. It doesn't hurt anymore, right? The Great Elder asked with an evil smile. Ren Jianying nestled in the Great Elder's arms. Her delicate body seemed to be boneless, sticking softly to the black robe. When she opened her mouth, she was still panting slightly. It's only temporary, she tilts her head back. Her pale and beautiful face was reflected in the Great Elder's eyes at close range. There was also sweat rolling down her forehead. 1 ton. Calm. Wonderful bookstore calm. Chapter 46-34. It also carried a deathly aura. Ren Jianying's body stiffened. He wanted to avoid it, but he didn't dare to. Don't talk so much nonsense. While there's still time, let me have a taste of being sick of you first. The first elder's cold and vulgar words rang in Ren Jianying's ears. There was still time. Did the Tenyu Palace not intend to let her live? Ren Jianying's eyes were dark under the night sky, and a hint of coldness could be vaguely seen. However, when the Great Elder bent down, she took the initiative to wrap her arms around the Great Elder's neck, trying her best to please him. At this moment, Yiqing Luo, who was nestled on the roof, saw everything that happened in the house. He had also heard the conversation between the two of them. But Yiqing Luo's gaze fell directly onto Ren Jianying's neck. The candlelight in the room was dim. He could vaguely see the entangled figures on the bed. Ren Jianying leaned against the bed. His clothes had long been disheveled. A large portion of her fair skin was exposed. Around his neck, there was a necklace with a fiery red light flowing through it. It was extremely eye-catching. That was the azure water chain of light. The azure water light chain that belonged to her mother. Just now, Dmo Xian wanted her to look at this necklace. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk slightly as her slender fingers clenched tightly. She would never let Ren Jianying and the Palace of Darkness taint her mother's things. As though he sensed Yiqing Luo's thoughts, the man who was sticking close to her raised one hand and blocked her eyes. There was a faint warmth in his warm palm. The man leaned over and whispered in her ear, "Don't look, it'll dirty your eyes. We'll snatch that necklace back later." He had to snatch it back. However, if he snatched it openly, he might disturb the Palace of Darkness. There's no hurry. Dmo Xian hooked her body and brought her away from Ren Jianying's courtyard. The flirtatious sounds in the room gradually faded away. This continued until it stopped on the other side of the Ren residence. The person you're looking for is not in the Ren residence. Dmo Xian hugged her tightly. Long Yunjian was not in the Ren residence. Long Yunjian was the person specially arranged by the Abyss Palace to deal with her. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness had finally managed to lure her out. They definitely couldn't let Long Yunjian leave the old city now. Long Yunjian was not in the Ren residence. That meant, in this old city. Calm. Wonderful bookstore calm. Chapter 46-35. No wonder when Ren Jianying saw Grand Elder, she couldn't help but reveal a fearful reflex action. It turned out that this Grand Elder liked to play with some exciting things. TSK. She was indeed a reborn person, her psychological quality was really strong. She knew that the other party didn't really care about her. She also knew the other party's bad habits. But in order to achieve her own goal, she voluntarily offered her own body. A woman who was so ruthless to her own family. Indeed. It was easy to succeed. If Ren Jianying didn't choose the wrong partner. Perhaps, Ren Jianying's ambition could really be achieved. But unfortunately, ambition was bigger than her own ability. And to cooperate with a partner whom she couldn't control. This doomed her to failure. After the maidservant finished packing, she left. Ren Jianying laid in the bedding without moving. If it wasn't for that pair of eyes, occasionally blinking. Yiqing Luo thought that Ren Jianying had been played to death. This filthy thing must not be seen by Dmo Xian. Yi Qing Luo covered Dmo Xian's eyes with both hands and turned towards him. Wait at the door, I'll go in to get the azure aqua light chain. From the first floor. Dmo Xian's vision had been fixed on her, not shifting away for half a second. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, he frowned slightly. The young lady leaned forward and planted a kiss on his face. I'm not asking you to leave, you stay at the door. If there's a trick, I'll call you. Perhaps that kiss pleased the man. The man released her slender waist. Yi Qing Luo was about to enter the room. Suddenly she thought of something, turned around and stared angrily at Dmo Xian. Don't peek at her. Dirty eyes. Dmo Xian smiled lightly as he pinched the young lady's cheek. If I want to see, I only want to see Lil Luo's naked body. Yi Qing Luo. Her face blushed slightly as she stared at Dmo Xian and entered the room. In the room, the maid lit up the incense to remove the smell. Her footsteps were silent. The person on the bed sensed something. Get out, no one is allowed to come in. But there was silence for a moment. There was no response. Ren Jianying suppressed emotions, exploded at this moment as she looked over angrily with a hoarse voice. This patriarch asked you to get out, didn't you hear? The word had yet to come out. Ren Jianying's pupils constricted when she saw who it was. The expression on his face darkened. What are you doing here? Ren Jianying suddenly sat up on the bed. The pain in her body made her suck in a breath of cold air. The bright red marks on his arms seemed to show the humiliation he had just suffered. Ren Jianying immediately pulled up the bedding and covered her skin. You want to see my joke, right? Now that you've seen it, are you satisfied? He looked like a wounded hedgehog. She didn't have any of her usual arrogance as a strong woman. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched in ridicule as her eyes revealed an extremely shallow cold arc. You yourself are a joke. Do you need me to specially come over to take a look? Ren Jianying pursed her lips and gripped the bedding tightly. She didn't refute Yi Qing Luo's words, but used a venomous gaze to stare at Yi Qing Luo without blinking. Long Yunzhan said that you would come to the Ren family tonight. I didn't expect you to really come. Her voice was filled with unconcealable venom. I should have believed in Long Yunzhan's understanding of you and arranged an inescapable net to catch you like a turtle in a jar. Mentioning Long Yunzhan. Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. Zhan He said that I would come to the Ren family tonight? Yi Qing Luo's brows creased slightly as her voice sounded a little dry. TXT 2016 A website, over 100,000, mobile phone can directly download TXT. Chapter 46-36. Hearing the solemnity in Yi Qing Luo's tone, Ren Jianying laughed coldly as her face was filled with a malicious smile. Do you really think that Long Yunzhan still remembers your past relationship? He's from the Palace of Darkness and right from the start, he's from the Palace of Darkness. His motive is to deal with you. As she said that, she laughed even more maniacally. Long Yunzhan is a chess piece which the Palace of Darkness specially arranged by your side. You actually believe in a chess piece? Hoping for a chess piece, to develop feelings for you? Ren Jianying laughed as her brows were filled with ridicule. Let me tell you, after you left yesterday, Long Yunzhan told Grand Elder. Based on your character, you will definitely come to the Ren family at night and asked us to take precautions. At this point, the smile on her face gradually disappeared. Her 5 fingers clutched the bedding tightly. If it wasn't for the fact that Grand Elder doesn't believe in Long Yunzhan's words, do you think that you can stand in front of me now? Ren Jianying's words were like thunder, falling into Yi Qing Luo's mind. Bursts of roaring filled her ears. Indeed. Based on Long Yunzhan's understanding of her, he definitely knew that tonight, she would come to the Ren family to look for him. He told this matter to Grand Elder. Did he want Grand Elder to catch her? Long Yunzhan was sincere. Or was there any other reason? Only by personally asking Long Yunzhan would he be able to get the answer. No matter how turbulent her heart was. Yi Qing Luo's expression was as calm and indifferent as usual, without any fluctuation of emotions. But, aren't I standing in front of you now? Yiqing Luo laughed lightly as she indifferently got closer to her. And you, how are you going to escape from my hands? Ren Jianying's laughing expression instantly froze on her face. Her hands clasped the bedding tightly as her body tensed up. You can't possibly make a move on me. This is the Ren residence and there are many people from the Palace of Darkness around. If I were to scream, you won't be able to escape. Why don't we try and see if you die first or if I get caught first? Yiqing Luo smiled as she stood by the bedside, condescendingly looking down at the lady on the bed. Ren Jianying's body shifted backwards. Yiqing Luo, you don't come over. As for the girl, she slowly approached. Ren Jianying, whose eyes were filled with shock, shrank back a little when the young girl approached her. Suddenly, the corners of Ren Jianying's mouth curled into a strange smile, and she stretched her arm out from under the blanket. In her hand was a wooden box which was filled with profound yin qi, as she threw it towards Yiqing Luo's direction fiercely. Ha ha ha. Yiqing Luo, did you really think that I didn't have any precaution at all? Grand Elder doesn't believe Long Yunzhan's words, but I believe. Ren Jianying's face was distorted, filled with the crazy pleasure of revenge. This is the witchcraft spell that I got from the Great Elder. Didn't you take that person from the Miao family away? I want to see what method she has to cure you. Pa. The wooden box fell to the ground. Ren Jianying's smile froze on her face once again. Because, at the moment when the wooden box was hurled towards Yiqing Luo, Yiqing Luo's figure had actually disappeared in front of her eyes. Until the wooden box fell to the ground. The girl appeared on her bed. A hand hooked onto the necklace around her neck. A "ka" sound was heard. The necklace fell into the young lady's fair slender fingers. Ren Jianying went into a blank for a moment, as her pupils suddenly widened, as both her hands swiftly pressed onto her own neck. This is my thing. Let go. Let go. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-37. Your things. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her lips curled into a smile which didn't look like a smile. Are you sure this is yours? Ren Jianying stared at that brilliant necklace in Yiqing Luo's hands as her eyes were filled with terror. Yiqing Luo. You broke it and gave it to me. This is mine. She pounced towards Yiqing Luo and stretched out her hand to snatch the necklace. This necklace was given to her by the Dark Palace. It was also the most important thing for her to improve her strength. With this necklace, her strength was much stronger than before. Without this necklace, how could she make those restless powers in the heaven realm submit to her? Most importantly, the Great Elder would never let her off. The Netherworld Palace would not let her off. Thinking of these consequences, Ren Jianying's pupils constricted as her actions of pouncing towards Yiqing Luo became even more frenzied and impatient. Under the bedding, her skin, which was full of red marks, was exposed. Ren Jianying didn't care. She just wanted to get the necklace back. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as her smile was overflowing, revealing a flirtatious cold arc. The moment Ren Jianying pounced on him, his figure disappeared in front of Ren Jianying. It was as though he had fused with the air. Ren Jianying missed and looked around in panic. But he saw Yiqing Luo standing in the direction of the entrance. How? How did she do it? How did she get to the door? Ren Jianying's bloodshot beautiful eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. That brilliant and vibrant necklace rippled into a beautiful arc on Yiqing Luo's fingertips. Ren Jianying jumped down from the bed. Guangguo's body fell heavily to the ground with a thud. As for the wooden box that fell to the ground, the dense mysterious yin qi seemed to have found its target and rushed towards Ren Jianying. A horrified expression appeared on Ren Jianying's face. His body suddenly shrank back. No. No. That was the goo of witchcraft. It was the witchcraft worm which Grand Elder had instructed her to take the opportunity to plant on Yiqing Luo. It was definitely not something good. Ren Jianying was terrified and wanted to climb onto the bed. But how could her speed be faster than the Wugu? A wisp of black aura darted toward Ren Jianying. In an instant, it swallowed Ren Jianying. In the darkness of the night, Ren Jian's painful screams could be heard. Bang! The door was kicked open. Dmo Xian's figure appeared in front of Yiqing Luo. Not waiting for Dmo Xian to speak, the young lady had already pounced into his arms and stretched out her little hand to cover Dmo Xian's eyes as she shouted in a domineering manner, "Don't open your eyes and don't peek." Ren Jianying was not wearing anything. She did not want her Xian to see another woman's naked body. Dmo Xian didn't move and obediently closed his eyes. Yiqing Luo's hand had not moved away from his eyes, even if the man couldn't see it. His long arms were still wrapped around the girl's waist. His thin lips moved slightly, and his voice was low. "Let's go." Yiqing Luo pulled him along and changed their positions. He turned his back to Ren Jianying. Only then did she release his gaze. Following that, her arms wrapped around his neck and with a small leap, she leapt into Dmo Xian's arms. The man caught her steadily and held her firmly on her hips. "We've already gotten the azure aqua light chain, let's go." Yiqing Luo swayed her little feet. Dmo Xian carried her and walked out of the room. The black mysterious Yin Qi made Ren Jianying's body revealed a little outline. She curled up on the ground as she cried out in pain. Chapter 46-38. Yiqing Luo, don't be complacent too early. She stared venomously at the two figures who were walking out of the room. She used all her energy to howl hysterically, "As long as your heart is soft, Long Yunzhan will definitely kill you. What kind of feeling is it to be killed by the person you trust the most? Ha 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 ha. Yiqing Luo, you're just a pitiful worm. Did you think that you can make Long Yunzhan return to your side, to talk about brotherhood with you? No. Impossible. He has already been washed away by the secluded palace. He's now a chess piece who only listens to the arrangements of the secluded palace. Either you kill him, or wait to be killed by him. He won't have any sense of guilt, because he doesn't have a heart, he doesn't have a heart at all." Ren Jianying vented the anger in her heart. The intense pain from the witchcraft worm made her lose her rationality. She knew that Yiqing Luo valued Long Yunzhan very much. She also knew, as long as Long Yunzhan was mentioned, it was a thorn in Yiqing Luo's heart. And that person who had already walked out of the room stopped in his tracks following her words. Ren Jianying knew that her guess was indeed right. Her words had indeed pierced into Yiqing Luo's heart. As long as Yiqing Luo was in pain. As long as Yiqing Luo was in pain. No matter how much pain she was in, she could take it. Looking at Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's harmonious and loving look, Ren Jianying only felt that it was a thorn in her eyes. On what basis could Yiqing Luo obtain the one and only love? To make the overlord dote on her so much. And she spent so much effort. But she couldn't get what she wanted. She had to force herself to climb from this man's bed to that man's bed. On what basis? She was obviously not worse than Yiqing Luo. Not any weaker than Yiqing Luo. Why was heaven so unfair? Giving her a second life but treating her in such a way. If her ending was like this, then why did she have to be reborn? Ren Jianying's heart was filled with resentment and anger. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something, and under the devouring of the witchcraft worm, her lips curled upwards. Yiqing Luo. Do you want to know why was Long Yunzhan washed away all his feelings by the secluded palace? Do you want to know why Long Yunzhan became a puppet? Ren Jianying burst out laughing. Not waiting for Yiqing Luo's reply, he directly gave his answer. You probably don't know that Long Yunzhan likes you, right? A chess piece had developed feelings for his own mission target. Ha 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 ha. What a joke. He likes you, and it's the kind of affection between a man and a woman. Bang. A gust of wind blew over. Dmo Xian's sleeves fluttered. The entire courtyard collapsed with a loud crash. Ren Jianying was engulfed in the collapsed building. Ah Xian, Yiqing Luo grabbed Dmo Xian's arm and suppressed his agitation. Dmo Xian's brows were filled with viciousness. But when he lowered his eyes to look at the girl, the expression on his face quickly softened. However, even if it was a gentle expression, Yiqing Luo could tell. He was angry. Moreover, very angry. Yiqing Luo hugged him tightly as she rubbed against his chest and propped up her waist as she placed her forehead on his. Her motive is to disturb my heart, don't be angry. Her stupidity touched his face. How could Jean like me? This kind of lie, no one would believe it even if I told you. Chapter 46-39. He really likes you. Dmo Xian's voice was a little deep, and she could faintly hear the suppressed anger in it. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes as she used her forehead to knock against his forehead. Are you silly, to actually believe what she said? I've known since a long time ago that he likes you. Dmo Xian held her hips, making her more comfortable in his arms. However, that pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes looked at her very seriously. So, I don't like you to be too close to him, and I don't like you to save him. Yiqing Luo, she was a little confused and couldn't wrap her head around it. Wait. Yiqing Luo shook her head. No, if Jean likes me, what does Ziqing count as? Ever since he Long and Yunzhan met, she clearly sensed that the atmosphere between Long Yunzhan and Tong Ziqing was obviously different. All that was left was for someone to speak up and break the ambiguous deadlock between them. Then, they would be together officially. Why did it suddenly become Long Yunzhan liking her? If Long Yunzhan really likes Tong Ziqing, he wouldn't have made Tong Ziqing wait for him for so long. Dmo Xian's voice was a little cold. After finishing this sentence, he stared at Yiqing Luo. His eyes darkened. Under the dim light of the night, he appeared even more indescribably handsome. He suddenly lowered his head and bit the tip of the girl's nose. I'm jealous, he muttered. That aggrieved look was very much like that of a large canine pet. Yiqing Luo sighed. What's there to be jealous about? Look at me. Till now, I still don't know that Jean might like me. You don't need to know. Dmo Xian's tone became more serious, as if he was a pet fighting for attention. You only need to know that I love you. That's enough. This man was flirting again. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and pinched his face. All right, don't be in a hurry to be jealous, I'm afraid we're in trouble. It was indeed troublesome. How could it not be troublesome? The two of them were so unbridled in the Ren family. Ren Jianying's voice and hysterical roar. In such a quiet night, how could it not attract the attention of others? Especially, earlier, Dmo Xian had directly flipped Ren Jianying's courtyard. It caused such a huge sensation. The guards of the Ren residence and the people from the Dark Abyss Palace rushed over. Dmo Xian's expression did not fluctuate. His deep eyes looked at her deeply. Coincidentally, I'm not in a good mood. These people came just in time. Yiqing Luo. A jealous man was really scary. The first elder came in a hurry. He hadn't even put his clothes on properly. Obviously, after tasting the sweetness from Ren Jianying, he returned to the base to rest in satisfaction. When he heard the commotion, he hurried over. On seeing Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian, Grand Elder's expression sunk. You too? His brows creased tightly as his gaze fell onto the necklace in Yiqing Luo's hand. Azure water chain. The Great Elder clenched his teeth and looked at the ruins. As expected of trash who can't do anything right. I told you that she would come to the Ren residence tonight, but you didn't believe me. A cold voice came from behind the first elder. Long Yunzhan's expression was cold. Under the night sky, his azure eyes were emotionless and cold. How would this elder know that what you said is true? The first elder's expression was ugly as he turned his head and looked at Long Yunjan. You and that woman used to have such a good relationship. How would this elder believe you? Now, do you believe me? Long Yunjan shot a glance at him indifferently, without any ridicule or any other meaning. Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 4640. Grand Elder's face turned black as he didn't continue talking to him. After Long Yunjan appeared, Yiqing Luo's vision was fixed on him. Her eyes were sparkling like water waves as she stared at Long Yunjan without blinking. Ever since Ren Jianying mentioned Long Yunjan, she could still lie to herself. All these were fake. Ren Jianying intentionally mentioned it to agitate her. But now, Long Yunjan appeared personally said. He had indeed made use of her understanding of her to help Secluded Palace. Only, Secluded Palace didn't appreciate it. She snorted lightly, and a cold mocking expression flashed across her face. You're not allowed to look at him. A large palm covered her eyes. A man's unhappy voice was heard, I'm very unhappy now. Earlier, Yiqing Luo found out that Long Yunjan liked her. Now, Yiqing Luo was still staring at Long Yunjan. Even if Dmo Xian knew that his wife had no feelings for Long Yunjan. But the moment Yiqing Luo's gaze looked over, he was unhappy. The young lady's long lashes slowly swept past Dmo Xian's palm. Her hand covered his palm as she slowly moved it away. All right, I won't look anymore. Long Yunjan, don't you want us to believe you? All right then. Now, make a move on that woman and let me believe you. Grand Elder saw the young couple were still kissing each other and his expression instantly turned ugly. Long Yunjan didn't say a word as he drew out the long sword in his hand. The blue profound glow was extremely dazzling in the quiet night. He held up his long sword as he walked towards Yiqing Luo step by step. Seeing Long Yunjan's actions, Grand Elder couldn't help but burst out laughing. I love this kind of internecine drama the most, ha ha ha. In the day, Long Yunjan faced her with his sword. Now, Long Yunjan had once again used that sword which had once protected the world group's brothers and aimed it at her. Even though she had many explanations for Long Yunjan in her heart, and had thought of numerous reasons for him. But when it came to this situation, Yiqing Luo's heart couldn't help but feel dull pain. Stand properly. Dmo Xian pulled her behind his back. His broad and tall figure blocked Yiqing Luo's line of sight. The man's entire body faintly emitted an oppressive profound energy. Yiqing Luo's little hand clutched his robes tightly as her gaze went past his body, looking at that expressionless Long Yunjan. Don't kill him. Dmo Xian did not speak. He leaped. The sleeves of his purple robe fluttered. She was like a proud and aloof purple lotus. Bang! The terrifying dark radiance engulfed the entire Ren residence. The ground cracked open and the buildings collapsed layer by layer. The surroundings were filled with screams. Immediately after, the man moved and appeared in front of Long Yunjan. He moved his palm and countless dark force wrapped around Long Yunjan like silk threads. Long Yunjan reacted quickly and slashed with his saber. It actually withstood a wave of Dmo Xian's attack. A shocking profound light lingered in the sky. Yiqing Luo's eyes were fixated on Dmo Xian's body without blinking, as her heart started to palpitate uneasily. She could tell. Dmo Xian was really angry. These Ren residence's guards and Secluded Palace's people had all become Dmo Xian's tools to vent his anger. Watching Dmo Xian and Long Yunjan cross hands, Yiqing Luo was still worried that Dmo Xian would injure Long Yunjan seriously because he had injured her. Her attention was focused on Dmo Xian and Long Yunjan. She hadn't noticed that a figure behind her was silently approaching her. Chapter 46-41. Until Yiqing Luo's ears twitched. She vaguely heard something amiss in the wind. As soon as he turned around, he saw the great elder's extremely terrifying face. Seeing Yi Qing Luo's reaction, he laughed sinisterly. Yi Qing Luo, be good and take a nap, in case you suffer. Following Grand Elder's words, his black robe moved. What met her was a ball of thick black yin qi. Yi Qing Luo immediately evaded. But Grand Elder's fingers were like eagle claws as he swiftly locked onto her shoulder. And just as Grand Elder was closing in on Yi Qing Luo, Lil Luo, Dmo Xian's eyes turned sharp as he raised his palm towards Long Yunzhan's chest, speedily heading towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. It was thrilling and dangerous at this critical moment. Not waiting for the crowd to react, a figure appeared in midair in the direction where Yi Qing Luo had retreated. Yi Qing Luo directly crashed into that person's arms. Elegant plum fragrance, with a hint of coldness, poured down. Yi Qing Luo subconsciously wanted to leave that person's arms. That person's long arms suddenly exerted strength as he locked her waist tightly, pressing her tightly into his arms. Yi Qing Luo couldn't struggle free. Following that, an irresistible profound ray rippled out from that person's sleeves. The two figures disappeared from the Ren residence. Damn it! The great elder gritted his teeth and cursed. This sudden interruption had snatched away the prey that was already in his hands. Lil Luo, Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with frost. The coldness between his brows seemed to be able to condense the surrounding air into frost. His frozen gaze looked towards Long Yunzhan. You'd better pray that he won't hurt Lil Luo, otherwise. Even if Lil Luo, speaks up for you, this lord will not be lenient. Earlier, he was able to rush to Yi Qing Luo's side in time. He waved that palm. Long Yunzhan could totally avoid it. But Long Yunzhan didn't avoid it. Instead, he took the initiative to meet him. And it was that action that made Dmo Xian pause for a moment. And it was that moment. When he rushed towards Yi Qing Luo, he was a step too late. He could only watch Yi Qing Luo being taken away by someone. Long Yunzhan didn't respond to Dmo Xian's words. A pair of azure blue eyes stared unblinkingly at the direction where Yi Qing Luo had disappeared to. In his eyes, one could vaguely see a deep meaning that couldn't be dispelled. Yi Qing Luo was held tightly in someone's arms, until his feet touched the ground. That person still had no intention of letting go. He held her tightly in his arms. He greedily absorbed her scent. After struggling to no avail, Yi Qing Luo's expression turned uglier and uglier. She simply stopped struggling and said coldly, Zhu Wuxin, if you don't let go, don't blame me for using poison. His voice was cold and emotionless. The person who was hugging her stiffened. Little by little, he loosened his grip on her waist. Yi Qing Luo left his embrace and took 2 steps back before she slowly raised her head to look at him. The man in front of him was dressed in a fiery red robe, and his black hair draped over his shoulders. There wasn't much emotion on his cold and handsome face. A pair of icy cold eyes stared at her without blinking. There were too many emotions beneath his eyes which Yi Qing Luo couldn't understand, and didn't want to understand. What are you doing? Yi Qing Luo looked at him as she asked. The man in front of her, on that icy cold face, slowly surfaced a different expression. He looked at Yi Qing Luo as he said word by word, I miss you. Miss her. Miss her very much. Ever since they parted the last time. He restrained himself and didn't look for her again. But he couldn't help but miss her. Chapter 46-42. Rumble, 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 a deafening explosion sound reverberated through the entire space. In the space, profound waves surged, as though a monstrous huge wave, wave after wave, crazily attacking. Even the sky had turned into an extremely oppressive deep black. The aura, crazily entangled, swallowing Yi Qing Luo entirely. Yi Qing Luo. This scene made the palace lord's pupils abruptly widen, as he screamed out Yi Qing Luo's name hoarsely. He wanted to dash towards the side where the profound energy was surging. But his path was completely blocked by the Linglong Palace's disciples. Get lost. Get lost. The palace lord of the Linglong Palace bellowed furiously. The overbearing energy crazily sent the people who were blocking in front of him flying. But there were still numerous female disciples who came forward wave after wave. Under the black robe, that pair of gloomy and sullen eyes overflowed with large black threads. If he wasn't shrouded in the black robe, then everyone could see. That pair of eyes was like a densely packed spider web, with numerous black threads. Those black threads, bit by bit, lingered in his pupils. Boundless evil qi overflowed from the palace lord of the Linglong Palace. That piece after piece, like a thin fog, the evil qi speedily spread in all directions. Everywhere it went. Those Linglong Palace's female disciples who were flocking towards him, all had a huge change in expression. Immediately following that, the expression on their faces started to turn sinister. One by one, they tore each other apart, tangling together. She realized that the evil qi which spread out was not right. Linglong Palace Lord's expression changed slightly, as she speedily retreated a few steps. She waved her sleeve. A transparent barrier blocked in front of her. It blocked off all the evil energy that was spreading over. But she had avoided the evil qi. But those female disciples who were guarding the surroundings were all affected by the evil qi. The method of killing each other was extremely vicious. Just a moment later, the entire space was filled with a thick blood stench. Blood also dyed the ground red. This scene made Linglong Palace Lord's expression sunk. She raised her voice, "Wake this palace lord up. What do you all look like? It was so easy for him to be attracted by my mind." However, no one heard her voice. Without these obstacles in the way, he would not be able to stop them. The palace lord of Ethereal Palace immediately rushed towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. In the meantime, earlier that wave of boundless energy which had engulfed Yi Qing Luo suddenly exploded with an extremely dense and intense aura. Bang! There was a loud noise. A fiery red shadow flashed past in front of his eyes. It was really fiery red, it was like a flame, dazzling and dazzling. That red was blinding for an instant. The surrounding air seemed to become extremely hot as a result. The surging heat and the blazing heat roasted everything around it. The ground was littered with corpses, and the smell of dried meat emanated from them. Many female disciples were affected by the evil Yin energy. Like a wild beast, he opened his mouth and began to tear at his opponent's flesh. It was an extremely bloody and cruel scene. The first judicial judge and the third judicial judge's relaxed faces immediately tensed up. He immediately raised his head and looked in the direction of the fiery red shadow. His entire body instantly froze. That is, it was a giant bird that was entirely red in color. Its phoenix feathers were like flames, overflowing with brilliance and vibrant colors. As it spread its wings, there were rays of light flowing, extremely dazzling. Vermilion bird. One of the 4 sacred beasts, Vermilion bird sacred beast. Update completed. Moi. Tomorrow the Overlord will make a dazzling appearance thanks to Disaster, 8 100 book coins. Say goodbye with a smile, 588, 4100 book coins. Juju, S reward love you all, end of this chapter, 97. Chapter 46-43. He shut his eyes hard, but, if I was given another chance, would still make the same choice. Because, the days when he imprisoned her, it was his most beautiful memory. And that was also his way of protecting her. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips pursed even tighter. Zhu Wu Xian, you're still like this until now. She turned around and the gaze she shot at him was filled with disappointment. Zhu Wu Xian was shrouded in a gloomy atmosphere. His jet black hair hung down as it floated in the wind. His perfect side profile didn't have much emotion, but it made one feel the pain in his heart. "Don't follow me anymore," Yiqing Luo said calmly. "I will not forgive you for what happened the last time." Saying that, she turned around and left. Behind her, Zhu Wu Xian didn't follow her. Only, Yiqing Luo could feel that his burning gaze was following her closely. Until her figure disappeared around the corner. Yiqing Luo sighed deeply. She really didn't like to torment these complicated feelings. To her, if she liked someone, then they should be together. If the other party didn't like her, then she wouldn't disturb the other party. Pestering and using unyielding methods, with an unusual stubbornness. It would only make the other party feel even more disgusted, wouldn't it? Zhu Wu Xian was much more stubborn than Gu Jingyu. Yiqing Luo rubbed her forehead. Her head was a little big. She'd better hurry back to the Ren residence. Xian would definitely go crazy looking for her. Yiqing Luo's figure swiftly wandered in the deep alley. But, after walking for a distance, Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks as she frowned slightly and looked behind her. Zhu Wu Xian? She sensed that someone had been following her. Silence for a moment. Only then did a figure slowly walk out from the darkness. It was a slender figure. She was dressed in a long, flowing dress, which made her look conspicuous and eye-catching. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she looked at her in astonishment. "It's you." The lady slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo. Her eyes met with Yiqing Luo's. "Why are you?" Yiqing Luo pursed her lips as she was slightly astonished. "Group leader Su." The person in front of her was the group leader of the third mercenary group which she met in the Earth realm, and also Gu Zixi group leader, Su Qingbing. Why was she here? "I want to talk to you about Wuxin." Su Qingbing's voice was calm, but the emotions in her eyes revealed her thoughts. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered and nodded after some time. "All right." The two of them leaned against the wall. "I'm not trying to persuade you to be with Wuxin." Su Qingbing tilted her head to look at her and smiled. "I like Wuxin." She was very calm and naturally admitted her feelings for Zhu Wuxin. "My obsession with him is the same as his obsession with you. So, I won't give up the chance to be with him." Su Qingbing withdrew her gaze and slowly raised her head to look at the narrow sky in the long alley. "Then what do you want to discuss with me about him?" Yiqing Luo admired this kind of lady. "Love is open." Su Qingbing chuckled. "If possible, I hope you can forgive him. Everything he has done is because he cares about you. He has never known what love is. Even when Che and I are by his side, we have never felt any warmth from him. He totally doesn't know how to love, and doesn't know any feelings. Perhaps everything he has done has caused harm to you, but those, his original intention, were all for you." Su Qingbing lowered her head again. "The reason why he imprisoned you the last time, was actually because..." Chapter 46-44. "I know." Yiqing Luo turned her body sideways and placed her hand on her shoulder. Sure enough, she felt the woman's delicate body trembling slightly. In fact, after saying these words, Su Qingbing's heart felt even more uncomfortable. Anyone who faced their love rival and spoke up for their beloved, hoping that the love rival could forgive their beloved. Her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. "Leader Su, I know, he trapped me there. Because my profound jade heart's secret was exposed." Yiqing Luo patted her shoulder lightly. "He wanted to protect me. You know." Su Qingbing pursed her lips tightly. Her eyes looked at her without blinking. "Since you know, why?" Knowing is one thing, but being able to accept it is another. Yiqing Luo let go of her shoulder and leaned against the wall again, raising her head to look at the sky. "This matter concerns me. He should tell me everything, and whether to accept his arrangement, is my decision. Do you know why I like Xian?" She tilted her head and looked at Su Qingbing. Su Qingbing's pupils contracted slightly. Why? She was also very curious. Why would a free and unrestrained woman like Yiqing Luo choose a man like the Overlord? Based on Yiqing Luo's character, she was definitely not the kind of person who would be together with the Overlord because of his status, even if they didn't meet many times. But Su Qingbing could see it. The relationship between Yiqing Luo and the Overlord. No one could step in. That kind of sincerity made one envious. Yiqing Luo lightly hooked her lips, because Xian understands. Everything is based on my wishes. When mentioning Dmo Xian, Yiqing Luo's expression was obviously much gentler. Her pink lips lightly hooked, her eyes filled with a faint smile. Whatever I want to do, Xian will support me unconditionally. As long as I want, he will definitely agree. I want to grow, so he suppressed his worry for me and let me fight alone. I want to become stronger, so he used his own way to help me. But never interfered in any of my matters. My decision, no matter how unbelievable, he will accompany me and complete it with me. When Yiqing Luo said this, she paused slightly. The smile and gentleness on his face became even more pronounced. Xian is not the kind of person who cares about other people's feelings, nor is he the kind of person who will compromise. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly as she looked at Su Qingbing. Actually, the previous Xian and Zhu Wu Xian should be considered as the same kind of person. But Xian is willing to change for me and compromise for me. Su Qingbing stared at her blankly. Some kind of emotion was surging in his eyes. But Zhu Wuxin is different. Yiqing Luo smiled as she opened her mouth. He's too stubborn, too stubborn. Towards me, is it because of his past possessiveness or because he really loves me? I'm afraid even he himself isn't sure, right? Su Qingbing pursed her lips and looked at her firmly. No. He loves you, Wuxin, he absolutely loves you. Yiqing Luo smiled. No matter if it's love or possessiveness, to me, it's too heavy. Zhu Wuxin has never cared about my wishes. He only uses his own thoughts to impose on me, deciding everything about me. To him, he probably only wants a canary which he can control in his palm. A canary who will only follow by his side, who only has him in her eyes and heart. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-45. Su Qingbing was speechless. What Yiqing Luo said was indeed so. Zhu Wu Xian was a stubborn and overbearing person. Whatever he had his eyes on, must belong to him. Whatever he wanted, must belong to him. This kind of possessiveness and overbearingness made one suffocated. After some time, Su Qingbing finally found a chance as she spoke out in a hoarse voice. But, if you don't give him a chance, how do you know that he isn't willing to change for you? If you are able to forgive Wu Xian, he will definitely be willing to change for you. Su Qingbing thought of this period of time. Zhu Wu Xian had completely changed into a different person because of Yiqing Luo. She had never seen Zhu Wu Xian who lost control. But as long as it concerned Yiqing Luo, Zhu Wu Xian seemed to have changed into another person. So, it wasn't that Zhu Wu Xian wasn't willing to change. But Yiqing Luo didn't give him that chance. Because I don't like him. Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she continued, because I love Xian, so I will not give Zhu Wu Xian any chance. Su Qingbing was speechless once again. Since you like Zhu Wu Xian so much, then work hard and walk into his heart, and not here. To convince me to accept Zhu Wu Xian. Yiqing Luo smiled at her. All of you don't need to follow me anymore. This is a matter between me and the Palace of Darkness. Since Zhu Wu Xian had worked together with the Palace of Darkness, then don't interfere in this matter. I'm not asking you to accept him. At this moment, Su Qingbing's expression was completely different from the leader who killed decisively and cleanly in front of the bloody mercenaries' members. Her face was filled with anxiety. Anxious to convince Yiqing Luo. I'm hoping that you can forgive him for what he had done to you previously. Su Qingbing took a step back and bowed to her. Yi Qing Luo, since you already know the real reason why Wu Xian did what he did, can you please forgive him on account that he did it because he cared about you? That's why he did the wrong thing. Yi Qing Luo didn't reply. Su Qingbing was feeling apprehensive. Ever since you left, Wu Xian he seemed to have changed into another person. The him now really isn't like him. I can tell that he has been wanting to apologize to you. The lady's voice was very soft. It sounded like a plea. Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change and her tone was indifferent. Leader Su, there's no need to say any more. With that, she turned around and walked away. Su Qingbing wanted to stop her. But when he saw the girl's back without hesitation, he felt a chill run down his spine. He swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. She had read countless people and naturally could tell Yi Qing Luo's character. Since Yi Qing Luo had already decided on something, no matter how she persuaded her, it would be of no use. Yi Qing Luo would never forgive Zhu Wu Xian. That was unforgivable. What should she think of now to persuade Zhu Wuxin? Su Qingbing faintly sighed, turned around and walked in the direction of Zhu Wuxin. As soon as he turned around, he saw a figure dressed in a fiery robe standing in the shadows. The man leaned against the wall. He was shrouded in a layer of shadow. It seemed to be lingering with deep sorrow and loss. Su Qingbing's lips moved. Wu Xian, when did Zhu Wuxin stand there? How much did he actually listen to? The moment she opened her mouth, the man who was leaning against the wall suddenly swayed. As though he had lost his supporting strength, he suddenly fell limply onto the ground. Su Qingbing rushed over anxiously and immediately supported Zhu Wuxin. Wu Xian, are you all right? Chapter 46-46. Zhu Wu Xian lowered his head, not saying a single word. As though he had sealed himself in his own world. Su Qingbing squatted beside him, her slender fingers clasped tightly onto his arm. How much, did you hear? Zhu Wu Xian had a reaction. His thick eyelashes trembled slightly. His cold gaze fell onto her, all of it. Su Qingbing was stunned by that cold gaze for a moment, as the hand which was holding onto his arm tightened. Then you. She knows I'm beside her. Zhu Wu Xian seemed as though he hadn't heard Su Qingbing's words, as he muttered to himself. That pair of icy cold eyes looked ahead without any focus. Right from the start. She knew I was beside her. Her words were intentionally said for me to hear. The man's voice was very low, every word and sentence, low and flustered. Su Qingbing didn't know how to comfort him. Or perhaps the current Zhu Wu Xian totally couldn't hear a single word. Yi Qing Luo, who had left without any hesitation, stopped at the corner. She stood at the corner, taking a look at Zhu Wu Xian and Su Qingbing's direction. Seeing Zhu Wu Xian sitting on the ground, not knowing what he was thinking, Yi Qing Luo sighed. But in the end, she left without turning back. She didn't know where Zhu Wu Xian had brought her to. The surroundings were filled with buildings and long alleys. But the environment was unfamiliar. It didn't seem like she was in the old city. Yi Qing Luo leapt onto a wall, taking in the surrounding terrain, into her eyes. Her gaze suddenly fixed on a certain place. That was an extremely luxurious and spacious mansion. What attracted Yi Qing Luo's attention wasn't the luxurious degree of that mansion. But she saw a black-robed old lady squatting there in a courtyard. The old lady's body was encircled by an extremely dense profound yin qi. That was the qi which came from the Nether Palace. Towards this kind of yin qi, Yi Qing Luo was the most sensitive. The profound yin qi on this old lady was on par with that grand elder. Someone from the Nether Palace? Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly, as she concealed her qi, as her figure moved swiftly. She stealthily approached the courtyard on the other side. There was no profound chi fluctuation in the surroundings. What was this old lady from the Palace of Darkness doing here? It was until they got nearer to the courtyard, when Yiqing Luo could faintly hear the complicated and strange words coming out from the old lady's mouth. Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. The old woman muttered to herself for a long time. Only then did he stop. Very soon, a handsome young man dressed in the uniform of the Palace of Darkness walked over with a wet soft cloth. He half-squatted beside the old woman and wiped her sweat. The man's voice was filled with flattery. "Venerable Wu, is your witchcraft a success?" As the man spoke, his body was almost pressed against the old woman's. The old woman moved her hand and pulled the man into her arms. "You want to know?" The old lady's voice was extremely ear-piercing and hoarse. Anyone who heard it couldn't help but feel their hair stand on end. The man had clearly been by the old woman's side for a long time. His words were filled with conforming to the old woman. "I just want to know if you can spend more time with me after the witch goo succeeds." The old woman laughed sinisterly. She lowered her head to that young man's mouth, as she fiercely spat a mouthful of saliva. "You only know how to please me. This thing has succeeded." The old woman pulled the man away from her arms and immediately stood up. Chapter 46-47. The old lady stood up. Yiqing Luo saw a huge basin placed in front of the old lady. That basin seemed to be made of silver. But on a closer look, it seemed to be made of other materials. Streaks of dark flowing light could be seen above it. And that basin was crawling with densely packed goo worms. The goo worms were black in color, and were overflowing with dense profound yin qi. The most shocking thing was that densely packed goo worms crawled all over the basin, but none of them crawled out of that basin. This batch of witchcraft is considered to be successful, but we need to find a few more people to test the effects of this witchcraft," the old lady said in a sharp voice. The young man's expression changed slightly, as he immediately stuck close to the old lady. "Then, shall I bring those people over for Old Witch to test the witchcraft?" The old lady touched his face. "Don't be so anxious, Grandma likes you so much. How would I bear to use you to test the witchcraft?" The young man gave a flattering smile. But in his eyes, there was an unconcealable fear. The old lady let go of him, as she waved her hand. Go, bring them out, and test the effect of my witchcraft." The young man immediately walked out of the courtyard. The conversation between the two. Yiqing Luo had heard everything. Her eyes sunk slightly, as her brows creased tightly. Old witch. Witchcraft. Could it be that this old lady was the person from the witchcraft aristocratic family invited by the Palace of Darkness? That was the person who poisoned Long Yunzhan. She couldn't understand the string of words just now at all. She was refining witchcraft, right? This old lady, refining this batch of witchcraft, what was she trying to do for the Palace of Darkness? What motive did the Palace of Darkness have? After a while, the young man brought 5 young girls with him. The young ladies' eyes were filled with fear, as their mouths were gagged, as they struggled and whimpered. The old lady stretched out her hand, as she grabbed one of the young ladies. That young lady's eyes widened in fear. The old lady held on to the young lady's chin, as she pulled her in front of her. A twisted expression surfaced on her sinister face. What a young and beautiful young lady. This face is so glaring. She laughed sinisterly. Seeing the fear in the young lady's eyes, she laughed even more crazily. "I don't know if you'll be able to keep your beautiful face after the witchcraft is cast." Jia. Jia jia jia. The old woman laughed sinisterly and picked up a goo worm from the basin. The goo worm quickly crawled into the little girl's body. In the blink of an eye, the little girl rolled off the old woman's hand and onto the ground. At a speed visible to the naked eye, his body was covered with layers of black spots. The little girl screamed miserably on the ground. Soon, the little girl's appearance had changed beyond recognition. The old woman smiled as she watched. Her face was filled with pride and satisfaction from controlling their lives. The little girl screamed, and the other girls shrank back in fear. Their eyes were filled with fear and pleading. Suddenly, the little girl stopped screaming. Suddenly, he stood up straight from the ground. Ah, the sound that came out of the little girl's mouth was no longer that of a woman's scream. Instead, it sounded like a beast's roar. The little girl clenched her fists and shouted desperately. His hands were also hammering the ground. In a split second, countless cracks appeared on the ground. Its destructive power was extremely strong. Yiqing Luo had witnessed this entire scene. From her angle, she could clearly see. The little girl's body was covered with large patches of black spots, but they weren't black spots at all. But from that goo worm, in her body, it had spawned one after another little goo worms. Dear, this chapter has ended, I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 46-48. Those little goo worms were controlling the young lady's body. An extremely destructive power. It wasn't the young lady's power, but the power of those little goo worms. Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly. What was the secluded darkness palace trying to do by letting the people from the witchcraft family refine this kind of witchcraft? One witchcraft worm was able to control one person. This huge basin of witchcraft worm, didn't it mean to turn thousands of cultivators into monsters controlled by witchcraft worms? Yiqing Luo stared at that young lady who was desperately letting out beastly cries of, ah, ah, ah. The entire courtyard was smashed into pieces by that young lady, collapsing in all sorts of ways. The young ladies who were tied up by the side were so frightened that they whimpered in fear. That young man looked at the young lady's destructive power as his brows were filled with smiles. Congratulations, Elder Wu, your witchcraft worm has finally succeeded. The old lady stared at that young lady who had lost control as she squinted her malicious eyes slightly. Suddenly her 5 fingers moved. That young lady instantly stopped her destructive actions. Her mouth was letting out a painful cry. Following that, she fell onto the ground in pain. The densely packed little goo worms started to wriggle wantonly in the young lady's body. Not long later, the young lady was left with a pile of ghastly white bones. At the same time, the densely packed little goo worms on the young lady's body also disappeared. The young ladies by the side widened their eyes as tears of terror flowed down. Looking at that pile of ghastly white bones, the young man's smile froze as he hurriedly softened his tone. Elder Wu, this is still not enough. Elder Wu slowly turned around as he looked at the witchcraft worm in the basin. The power is too weak and the duration is too short. It's useless. The young man's tone was slightly anxious. Elder Wu, this witchcraft worm's power is already very strong and it hasn't reached the last moment of control, so how can you be sure that the duration is not long enough? Elder Wu, you try again. Elder Wu's malicious eyes suddenly fixed onto that young man as his lips curled into a sneer. Why? You're very anxious? No. I'm not. The young man realized that he had lost his composure as he hurriedly put on a flattering smile. I'm just worried that Elder Wu will be tired. You've worked hard for such a long time, and if this batch doesn't work, you'll have to work hard for a long time. The young man's voice was extremely gentle, and there was a hint of coquettishness in it. Elder Wu's furrowed brows relaxed. All right, don't try to coax me. Bring these people away. I want to see what the problem is with this goo. The young man hesitantly looked at the big pot of witchcraft insects. In the end, she pursed her lips and dragged the little girls out of the courtyard. Venerable Wu returned to the side of the basin and extended his hand into the basin. Witchcraft goo immediately crawled all over Venerable Wu's hand. Venerable Wu frowned and sized up the witchcraft venom on his hands in confusion. He muttered to himself, where exactly is the problem? Why can't these witchcraft venomous insects control the human body? Controlling the human body. Yiqing Luo heard old Wu's words and roughly understood what old Wu meant by the effect wasn't enough. Elder Wu wanted to use these witchcraft insects to completely control a person. To control it like a person. He was no different from his usual self. However, when the witchcraft goo entered the little girl's body, the little girl's entire state was totally like a wild beast. To be more accurate, old Wu's motive was to make use of the witchcraft insects to create puppets. Chapter 46-49. Previously. Didn't the Palace of Darkness use the forbidden curse to create a batch of undead puppets? Why did they still need the witchcraft family's witchcraft master to create puppets? If she didn't guess wrongly, that young man earlier should be the one who was placed beside Venerable Wu. His motive was to urge Venerable Wu to complete the witchcraft. From that young man's anxious look, he should be someone from the Palace of Darkness, urging them anxiously. Yiqing Luo muttered to herself for a moment. Using the teleportation secret technique, he quietly disappeared from the courtyard. She followed the young man's trail. The young man dragged a few young ladies and threw them into the house in the neighboring courtyard. Just as she got nearer, Yiqing Luo heard a lady's woo 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 sounds coming from the entire house. Apparently, these were the young ladies used to test the spell. After the young man threw the few of them into the house, he locked the door and quietly walked towards another corner. The man's expression was cautious, as though he was afraid that the old lady would see him. He kept a close eye on his back, in case anyone suddenly appeared. He reached that corner. The man knocked on the wall. Very quickly, a black-cloaked man from the Palace of Darkness appeared in front of the man. The man lowered his voice. Venerable Wu's witchcraft has failed and needs to be refined again. That black-cloaked man was slightly displeased. Need to delay again? His lordship is rather anxious. If it is delayed any longer, I'm afraid his lordship will be angry. The young man pursed his lips tightly, as his face was filled with fear towards his lordship. I know his lordship is anxious, but Venerable Wu's character, his lordship should know that if it is not to her satisfaction, she will refine it again and again. The black-cloaked man's tone changed, as he spoke in an unquestionable tone. No matter what, within 3 days, you must let me show you the results. The young man revealed a bitter expression. With Venerable Wu's character, how can we urge her? Don't you know how to please her? At most, we'll just convince her on the bed. The black-cloaked man sneered, as though he was disdainful. Following that, the cloak shook. Then it disappeared before the young man's eyes. The young man's expression was distressed, as he clenched his fists in anger and frustration, as he punched the wall hard. Until he calmed down the anger in his heart. Only then did the young man adjust the expression on his face and once again headed towards the Magus Elder's courtyard. Yiqing Luo didn't follow up. The entire courtyard fell silent. Only then did she slowly appear and walk towards the room where the little girls were locked up. The room was filled with the sounds of women moaning and banging things. She glanced in the direction of the Venerable Wu and entered the house. There was not a single piece of furniture in the room, only a pile of young and beautiful women. After she entered the room, the women all looked at her in shock. When he found out that she wasn't tied up and there was nothing in her mouth, he felt a chill run down his spine. All of them wriggled their bodies and stared at her with widened eyes. It seemed to be asking for help. Yiqing Luo made a hush sound at them and grabbed the nearest lady, speaking in a low voice. I can save you, but you must cooperate. All the women nodded vigorously. Yiqing Luo's voice was deep as she said word by word, no matter how afraid you are, you'd better keep your mouths shut. If those people outside find out that you're trying to escape, you should be very clear about the consequences. Fear appeared in the eyes of the women as they nodded vigorously. Chapter 46-50. Yiqing Luo removed the cloth from the lady's mouth. How did you get caught and brought here? Do you know the person who caught you? The lady's tears flowed down as she sobbed. We We were caught, we don't know that man. What do you know? Yi-Ching Luo couldn't hear the ladies sobbing clearly. Don't waste time on meaningless crying. If you want to escape safely, then make the best use of your time. Don't waste time, whoever knows the situation, speak up now. Yi-Ching Luo's voice was filled with an indescribable majesty. It made all the ladies in the room so stunned that their sobbing became much softer. Until a lady whimpered as she moved towards Yi-Ching Luo. Yi-Ching Luo dropped the lady in her hands and walked towards that lady. She removed the cloth from the lady's mouth. What do you want to say? This lady was slightly different from the other ladies. The other ladies were crying till their eyes turned red. But this lady's eyelashes weren't wet at all. It wasn't fear in her eyes, but hatred. We are all experimental subjects. The lady gritted her teeth and said, the person outside is Elder Wu from the witchcraft family. Rather than saying she is from the witchcraft family, you might as well say she was abandoned by them. Yi-Ching Luo roughly understood the lady's concise and comprehensive words. This lady's name was Wu Che. Yes, her surname was Wu and she was also from the witchcraft family. But she was different from Elder Wu. Venerable Magus had once been chased out of the witchcraft family by the patriarch of the witchcraft family for refining a forbidden witchcraft goo. He was ordered to never step into the witchcraft family ever again. And Elder Wu, who was chased out of the witchcraft family, didn't feel that he was in the wrong. She joined the Nether Palace and used witchcraft to help the Nether Palace to do many harmful things. Hence, Wu Che, the daughter of the witchcraft family's leader, left the witchcraft family to help them clean up the mess. But unexpectedly, she was caught by Elder Wu. She was the first one who was caught in the room. Elder Wu and that young man had no intention to let her off. When the both of them were conversing, they had never avoided her. So Wu Che found out from their conversation. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness needed the shaman elder to refine a batch of puppets that could be controlled. Furthermore, they had to be extremely strong and destructive. Therefore, Elder Wu used witchcraft and started to refine the forbidden witchcraft. After the refinement, he needed a group of people to test the goo. Thus, young and beautiful girls were captured and used as goo test subjects. After listening to Wu Che's explanation, Yi-Ching Luo frowned slightly. Since you're all test subjects, why? Are you still alive? Wu Che was the first person to be captured and brought into the room, but he was still alive. Wu Che shook his head, I don't know either. Perhaps I still have some value that can be used. Finishing her words, her hands clenched into fists as she looked at Yi-Ching Luo with eyes filled with hope. Can you save everyone? As long as everyone leaves this place safely, I represent the witchcraft family to thank you for your life-saving grace. The entire room of ladies, upon hearing this sentence, were all touched and filled with hope as they looked at Yi-Ching Luo, crying out, woo woo. Yi-Ching Luo looked around the room. There were about 30 or so women. If he wanted to save them all, it might be a little difficult. Everyone is a cultivator, so the chances of us escaping together is very high. Wu Che seemed to have seen through Yi-Ching Luo's thoughts. I still have quite a number of witchcraft on me. If Elder Wu and the rest want to stop us, I can deal with him. Chapter 46-51. Yi-Ching Luo pursed her lips slightly as her long and narrow eyes seemed to be rippling with a faint glow. She didn't make a sound. But the ladies by the side were all panicking. One by one, they looked at Yi-Ching Luo pleadingly, anxiously trying to grab onto this last life-saving straw. Yi-Ching Luo remained silent for a moment as her breathing paused slightly. I can save you, but after you leave this house, the ending is entirely up to you. She didn't feel that she could bring 30 over ladies and escape from this place. She could save them. But whether they could leave or not, they could only depend on their own ability and fate. After getting the ladies' agreement, Yi-Ching Luo bent over and untied all their ropes. The ladies forced themselves to calm down. They moved their hands and feet, which had been tied for a long time, then looked at Yi-Ching Luo resolutely. Thank you, miss, for saving our lives. if there's a chance, we will definitely repay you. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. Whether you can leave safely is still a problem. Elder Wu is now refining witchcraft in the courtyard next door, the rest is up to you. Saying that, she quietly approached the door, preparing to leave. Wu Che followed behind her. Miss, are you here to deal with Elder Wu? Why don't we join hands? Yiqing Luo's gaze swept past her. I'm just passing by, saving them on the way. Wu Che didn't expect her to reply in this way as he was slightly stunned. And this stunned. Yiqing Luo had already walked out of the room. The other ladies had all fled the house. Whether those ladies could escape or not, this was not something Yiqing Luo could care about. Her vision looked towards Elder Wu's courtyard. Then she headed towards the courtyard. Wu Che followed up again, his face full of pleading. Miss, since you're willing to save everyone, you must be a kind-hearted person. Please help me. I can't beat her. Yiqing Luo replied very straightforwardly. If you're not Elder Wu's opponent, I can give you a piece of advice. Wu Che, what? Go back to the witchcraft family and find someone with stronger ability to deal with her. Yiqing Luo's lips curled. Can you move aside now? Wu Che pursed her lips and a tearful expression appeared on her beautiful face. I don't want to go back to the witchcraft family. I want to prove that I'm about to inherit the witchcraft family not because my father is the leader of the witchcraft family, but because of my ability. So I must complete this mission. I want to capture Elder Wu and bring her back. Wu Che stubbornly raised her head, her beautiful eyes focused. Miss, as long as you're willing to help me, it's equivalent to helping the entire witchcraft family. The witchcraft family will fulfill any request you have. The woman's tone was sincere. Yiqing Luo raised her brows slightly. Her smile deepened and she slowly shook her head. I'm sorry, I really can't help you with this. She walked past Wu Che and walked away. Miss, I beg you. Wu Che's eyes reddened as he pounced towards Yiqing Luo. Just as Wu Che was about to touch Yiqing Luo, a dazzling red glow emitted from Yiqing Luo's body. Wu Che's entire body was struck by the red light and he fell to the ground. A voodoo goo worm about the size of a fingernail landed beside her feet. Wu Che's face turned pale and blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. She frantically climbed up from the ground and stretched out her hand in an attempt to grab that witchcraft worm. But just as she moved, a ray of black light struck over. That witchcraft worm instantly split into pieces. Wu Che was so shocked that she shrank back and raised her head, staring at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. Why did you suddenly attack me? Dear, this chapter has ended, I wish you a happy reading. Big smiley face. Chapter 46-52. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she looked down at her condescendingly. That pair of long and narrow eyes glowed. An eerie chill seeped out from it. Perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo's imposing manner was too overbearing. Or perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo's gaze was too terrifying. Wu Che felt as if an ice-cold venomous snake had crawled across her back, before slowly wrapping around her neck. That gaze was extremely horrifying. Wu Che's face turned slightly pale as her slender fingers clenched into a fist as she stared at her unblinkingly. Miss. If you look at me like that, I will be afraid. If you know that you're afraid, then don't come over to court death. Yiqing Luo looked at her indifferently without any expression on her face. Wu Che shrank her neck in fear as she felt an inexplicable chill in her heart. But when she saw that Yiqing Luo was about to leave, she gritted her teeth as she spoke out timidly. Miss, I only hope that you can help me. No other meaning. Yiqing Luo's footsteps paused slightly, looking at the lady who was sprawled on the ground with a pale face and a timid look. She found it funny. Do you think that everyone is an idiot? Wu Che was stunned as her petite body trembled unconsciously. You. What do you mean? Don't you feel tired after acting for so long? Yi Qing Luo's gaze was calm as she looked at her. Wu Che, don't think too highly of yourself. Wu Che sat on the ground as she lowered her head for a long time. After a moment of silence, she then slowly stood up from the ground. She raised her eyes to look at Yi Qing Luo. Her face was no longer filled with the pleading expression but was calm. Wu Che frowned as she stared at Yi Qing Luo as though she wanted to stare at her. How did you know? Because you're stupid. Yi Qing Luo replied impolitely. Looking at the lady's expression changed. Yi Qing Luo's smile deepened as though she was ridiculing. Your story is simply too lousy and full of loopholes. How can anyone believe it? What loopholes? Wu Che pursed her lips as her expression turned ugly. I'm not lying, old Wu was indeed chased out by the witchcraft family. Yes, this is indeed not a lie. Yi Qing Luo simply didn't intend to leave as she leaned her back against the door and crossed her arms in front of her chest. But, you've left out a point. You are not the daughter of some witchcraft family head. You're also someone who was chased out by the witchcraft family head. No. I'm not. Wu Che's expression changed abruptly as he bellowed at Yi Qing Luo malevolently. I am the clan leader's daughter. I am the future successor of the witchcraft family. It was those people from the witchcraft family who wanted to deprive me of my rights. For the sake of power, they framed me and Grandma. It's them, it's their fault. This angry roar. The surrounding girls who were quietly trying to escape were all startled. All of them stared blankly at Wu Che and Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo's peripheral vision swept past those ladies. He took a step forward. He stood in front of Wu Che. That petite figure emitted an oppressive might that shocked people's hearts. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was like the frost that had condensed into ice. I don't really care what your identity is. Yi Qing Luo met Wu Che's slightly crazed eyes without blinking as her pink lips curled into a faint smile. Do you know where your biggest problem lies? Where? Wu Che stared at her maliciously. You said. You're the first person to be locked in the room. Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers stroked her chin lightly. Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading. *0 You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.